Although we have barely just gotten past the second biggest WWE pay-per-view of the year, SummerSlam, the WWE are already back in a big way with tomorrow night's Payback pay-per-view event. And while this event wasn't exactly hyped up or very talked about, with the things that have transpired on this week's episodes of Raw and SmackDown, most fans are very excited for what's in store to happen on Sunday's Payback show. And in this video, we reveal all the surprises and spoilers rumored for Payback 2020, as well as the winners of each of the announced matches on the card. The Payback 2020 card will be opening up with a singles match between King Corbin and SmackDown newcomer Matt Riddle, and while this could very well end up being a very solid match, the main reason for this bout is to add some momentum to Matt Riddle moving forward in 2020, and one source has mentioned that Matt Riddle will be defeating King Corbin at Payback in a back and forth match, with it seeming as though Corbin would be closing in on a victory, only for Matt to steal the show and pull off the big win over the former Money in the Bank briefcase holder. Rey and Dominic Mysterio's feud against Seth Rollins will be reaching its breaking point tomorrow night at Payback 2020, because after a string of matches between Seth and Rey, and then Seth and Rey's son Dominic, Rey Mysterio and his son Dominic will now have the opportunity to finally team up with one another, as Rey and Dominic Mysterio are set to face off against Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy in a tag team match at Payback. While there is always a possibility that the WWE will pull off the swerve that has been rumored for several weeks now, that swerve being Dominic turning on his father Rey Mysterio and aligning with Seth Rollins and his faction, we have been informed that Vince doesn't plan for that scenario to play out quite yet, and wants to keep Rey and Dom together for a bit longer. So tomorrow night at Payback, fans can fully expect Rey Mysterio and his son Dominic to pick up the big win over Rollins and Murphy. When SummerSlam 2020 had concluded with Drew McIntyre managing to defeat Randy Orton with the surprise roll-up pin to retain his WWE Championship, there's no doubt that most fans were sure that the WWE were going to be booking an immediate rematch between Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre at Payback 2020. But following Randy Orton's attack on Drew McIntyre this past week on Monday Night Raw, which resulted in McIntyre suffering a serious storyline injury that will keep him out of action for the foreseeable future, Vince has postponed Randy Orton's rematch against Drew, and has instead booked a Randy Orton vs Raw newcomer Keith Lee match at Payback tomorrow night. Although there is always that possibility that Vince will give the new Raw superstar a monumental win over the Viper, one of our sources has mentioned that Randy Orton will be picking up the win over Keith Lee, with McMahon apparently wanting Randy Orton to gain a bit of momentum back after his loss at SummerSlam, before Randy gets his rematch at the upcoming Clash of Champions pay-per-view event in September. And we have been told that Vince doesn't think a loss for Keith Lee will damage his credibility, and will instead tell the storyline that the newcomer Keith Lee still has a ways to go before he can compete with the biggest main roster superstars. The WWE Women's Tag Team Championships will be on the line tomorrow night at Payback 2020, as the current champions Sasha Banks and Bayley will be defending their titles against challengers Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. As most of you are likely aware, the bigger underlying storyline in this match is definitely in regards to the crumbling friendship and partnership between Sasha Banks and Bayley, and most fans are very curious as to whether or not Bayley and Banks can keep things together during their title defense against Nia Jax and Shayna, and still manage to work as a cohesive team and retain their gold. However, according to a new leaked backstage rumor, the tension between Sasha Banks and Bayley is reportedly set to reach its breaking point at Payback, with Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler rumored to win the Women's Tag Team Championships, with Sasha rumored to be the one to turn on Bayley and cost her team the titles, which will inevitably lead to Sasha Banks and Bayley feuding for the SmackDown Women's Championship for the rest of 2020, with Sasha likely to receive her first opportunity at the gold at Clash of Champions next month. A match that was just recently announced for Payback 2020 is Sheamus vs Big E, and while this certainly isn't going to be featured as one of the marquee matches on the Payback card tomorrow night, there's no doubt it still has the potential to be a fantastic and intense clash between these two monstrous superstars, and by all means, this pay-per-view match for Big E is reportedly the beginning of a fairly significant push for the New Day member, as we continue into the fall months of 2020, with Big E reportedly being Vince's top choice to be the next Intercontinental Champion. According to one of our sources, Big E will be picking up the win over Sheamus at Payback, with Langston then continuing his journey up the card to the Intercontinental title, and possibly even a bigger main event role sometime later this year, if all things go according to Vince's plan. Besides the Universal title match between the Fiend Bray Wyatt, Roman Reigns, and Braun Strowman, arguably the biggest title match featured on the Payback 2020 pay-per-view card tomorrow is the United States Championship match between the defending champion Apollo Crews and worthy challenger Bobby Lashley, who is looking to try and right the wrongs after his fellow Hurt Business member MVP failed to win the title from Apollo at this past weekend's SummerSlam pay-per-view. While the WWE have seemed more confident than ever before with Apollo Crews' push on Monday Night Raw recently, especially when you compare it to the past when Apollo was demoted down the card just as quickly as he was given any kind of a push, a new backstage rumor has revealed that Bobby Lashley will be winning the United States Championship from Apollo Crews at Payback, likely by an interference from the rest of the Hurt Business members MVP and Shelton Benjamin, which will essentially keep Apollo Crews looking strong in defeat, considering it would not exactly be a clean loss by any stretch. Leading up to the Payback pay-per-view, there had been some rumors going around that Brock Lesnar was going to be returning to set his sights on Bobby Lashley and inevitably cost him the title, but with a big storyline development that occurred last night on Friday Night SmackDown, which we will discuss shortly, that is looking more and more unlikely, and Lashley will reportedly be walking out of Payback 2020 the new United States Champion. Just 1 week after regaining the Universal title at SummerSlam, the Fiend Bray Wyatt will be defending his Universal Championship against Braun Strowman and a new heel Paul Heyman guy Roman Reigns at Payback 2020 in a no-holds-barred triple threat match. Although the WWE have really only officially confirmed this big match as of last night's edition of SmackDown, there's no doubt that most fans cannot wait for the main event of tomorrow night's Payback show, as there are so many rumored directions the company could move in when it comes to the superstar walking out of Payback with the Universal title, and some possible surprising swerves during the match. As most of you are likely aware by now, the WWE confirmed last night on SmackDown that Roman Reigns will be a Brock Lesnar-like heel moving forward after his return. But it cannot be denied that very few fans ever expected Roman Reigns to truly take the Brock Lesnar role to the next level by aligning with Paul Heyman and essentially becoming the new Paul Heyman guy in Lesnar's absence, a decision that many fans believe is truly awesome. As of right now, one of our sources has mentioned that Vince is strongly favoring Roman Reigns to walk out of Payback 2020 the new Universal Champion, after having won a grueling match against two of the most dangerous superstars on the SmackDown roster in the Fiend Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman. But just because Roman Reigns is rumored to win the title, there's another huge rumored storyline that McMahon is apparently planning to pull off during this Universal title match. A new backstage rumor has indicated that Vince is wanting to finally unveil the Fiend's new Wyatt family at Payback tomorrow night, with the rumored new members being Lars Sullivan, Bo Dallas, and Alexa Bliss. Although one new leaked backstage rumor has revealed that former TNA superstar Abyss, who now works for the WWE behind the scenes, may shockingly return at Payback and join this new Wyatt family as well. We have been told that Payback 2020 will likely conclude with Roman Reigns as the new Universal Champion, and Braun Strowman joining The Fiend and the rest of the new Wyatt family.